Hi, folks, and welcome to Prep with a Pro Week 16. It's only 3 weeks now before I head over to the UK. It really is starting to get very real. So, where am I at? Well, this week has been a very difficult week. I guess the culmination of working 3 jobs and doing prep has really knocked me on my arse. Physically, this week, I've totally hit a wall. I've scraped through my training every day this week. I've literally, I've literally run out of energy. Sometimes by lunchtime, I having to have a lie down, and have a sleep, and I think it was Wednesday afternoon. I could barely, by the end of the day at work, I could barely stand, and I really had no idea how I was going to cycle home. I actually think that the cycling might have something to do with it. I worked it out. I'm probably doing an extra 60 kilometres cycling a week. So all that extra cycling is probably not helping me on top of working a full-time job and doing comp prep and all of the posing that I'm doing. And I just haven't had any time off and given myself a break. And this week it's all come to a bit of a head, and I've physically crashed. And right now, I've been struggling, I guess, the last couple of weeks with my motivation anyway, and that's probably been a symptom of just sheer tiredness and pushing myself too hard. So fortunately now, actually, with most of the competitions out the way, most of all the extra coaching I've done has rolled off. I've only got bits here and there, which is fantastic because I can now I can give myself, the 3 weeks, before I head over to England. I'm really going to maximise every opportunity to do nothing. So next weekend I have nothing on. The weekend after I have nothing on. And as soon as I hit England, then beyond training, I'll just be hanging out with my parents and my brother. So again, I'll have nothing on, which is fantastic. So hopefully that'll pull me back, because at this stage of a prep, usually by this stage of a prep, I'm absolutely flying. I'm hitting PBs, I'm bouncing through my training, my motivation's at my highest. And this prep has, like I say, it's been the strangest prep ever, because I'm just not experiencing anything that I usually experience on a prep. It's very strange that I'm struggling with my motivation. That's just something I've never struggled with before. This extreme exhaustion, I've never struggled with this before. And it's very, very weird. So, fortunately, my body's still responding to what we're doing, and I've still come in. And actually, you know, I feel ready. I look ready. I'm probably the leanest I've been in my upper body ever. So, and when we get to the photographs, you'll see. And physically, I look ready. But I've been just looking with the last couple of weeks where I've actually sort of, in theory, put on a couple of kilos. I've actually been wondering if my estrogen's a bit out of whack. So started, I've actually got myself some DIM and some calcium D-glucarate to try and just metabolize some estrogen and just dry me out a bit. I've been looking a little bit soft, although I've been looking good. I think I've been looking a little bit soft, and I think that's why I'm still holding a little bit of fat on the front of my legs. Strangely enough, it seems to be on the front of my legs, which is usually not the case. My hamstrings have come through beautifully, but it seems to be holding a little bit and on my front of my legs. So I've got on some DIM and some calcium D-glucarate, just to try and make sure my estrogen metabolism is on track. So let's just go through all of the numbers and stuff and show you what's going on. Now, Monday. You remember, for the last 2 weeks, I've kind of been a bit all over the place with the weight, and I haven't been able to get below, well, I've been holding the 56 mark, which has been very, very strange. And on Monday, I was up at 56. By Tuesday, look at this, that's 1.4 kilos. Actually, that coincided with the end of my period. Now, actually, I hope there's no guys listening to this, because I'm going to have another chat about periods and being on stage. Now, I had the question during the week. Somebody said, oh my God, my period's due a couple of days before my show. I've gone to the doctor and I've got some drugs to stop it. I've asked a lot of other people and I've had lots of conflicting answers. What should I do? Anyway, so this competitor was in a bit of a state and didn't know what to do. If your period is due a couple of days before your show, please, please, please do not get anything to block it. If you've got, what I've been on stage with my period on the day before, the day after, whatever whatever you could think of, it's happened. Most of the time, I actually find my cycle plays the game properly, and I come up a treat. But I've been on stage with it just happening on the day. I don't do anything, so you just have to let it happen. The reason that the way I deal with it essentially is I make sure that I hit my conditioning 2 weeks out at least from a show. That way, I've already hinted at the fact that I've become a bit bulletproof once I've hit my conditioning, and I'll show you a bit more of this in a second. But if you get your conditioning right before your show, your period actually shouldn't throw you out that badly. Okay? I actually prefer mine to hit about 3 days out, because by 3 days it's generally washed me through and I drop a heap of water weight. Now, you can see this here, this is what happened between Monday and Tuesday. That was the end of my period. So my period actually started on the Saturday, well, Friday night. Like Saturday and Sunday, I was still up around the 56, but by the Tuesday, when it completely ended, it just flushed me out totally, and I hit the 54. So this is the other thing as well, is although my body, probably the previous 2 weeks, that weight gain was probably my body trying to have my period. Remember, it's blown out to 48 days. So I've been holding the water, and it's actually masked some genuine fat loss. So once it had all worked its way through, on Tuesday, all of a sudden we can see that fat loss. And then it actually continued Wednesday and Thursday. So I didn't drop anything extra this week. But the fact that I held consistent was awesome. I've not had 3 days consistently all prep. So this was really, really good. So, of course, then Thursday was my refeed. Friday I was up. And then Saturday I was back down near the 55 mark again. And actually this was really good to see, because you remember last week I did a clean refeed because I wanted to see how quickly it would get me back to show shape. And again, I did a clean refeed. I had my venison stew on toast again, which was lovely. And then I just had rice cakes and honey throughout the day. So I did have a high carb day, but I kept it really clean. And you can see that within 2 days, I was virtually back down to, my lowest weight. So this is a really good sign. So this gives me confidence for going to England. It definitely shows that I can do the clean refeed 2 days out, and then I'll be pretty much back down to show condition. Okay. What I am going to do actually over the next couple of weeks is, now because I'm in show condition, I'm actually in a a bit of a luxurious place to be. But because I'm physically and I guess emotionally and physiologically in a much different space to what I've ever been, I'm actually going to do some experiments on myself. Now, I would never normally do this on a prep, but I actually want to illustrate some peak week protocols that some of you might be going through, or your coaches might put you through, just to illustrate what they do. So what I'm going to do next week, I'm actually going to do a carb front load. So starting on Tuesday, what I will do is I will load up by doing a carb front load. I will give myself 2.5 times my usual level of carbs on Tuesday. Wednesday, I will do 2 times my usual level of carbs. Thursday, I'll do 1.5 times my usual level of carbs. And Friday, I'll be back to my usual level of carbs. And then I'll see how I'll pull up on the Saturday. So the purpose behind a front load is it allows you the rest of the week, when you're still training, if you do overshoot the first day's amount of carbs and you look watery, it means you've got 4 days to pull it back. So this is why some people do a front load. Now, of course, the most common kind of carb loading that people do is the back load, where they'll do a glycogen deplete for 3 days, 3 or 4 days, and then they'll load up for 2 or 3 days before the show. So that's what I'm going to do the week before I go on the plane. So next week I'm going to do the carb front load from Tuesday to Friday. Then the following week I'll wash it out. So that'll give me 5 days to wash it out, and then I'll do a carb backload starting the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, and then see how I pull up on the Saturday. So, like I say, I don't usually do this, but I'm playing around, and I just want to give you some examples of some protocols that might be happening during the peak week. Okay, I now know that my clean refeed will have me absolutely back on track in 2 days. So this is a really good space to be in. I know that. When I go to England, it means I know I can cook the food at home at my parents' house, and I know I'll be good to go on the Saturday. So if the carb front load experiment goes horribly wrong, or if the carb backload experiment goes horribly wrong, it doesn't matter because I already know what I can do for my peak week. And generally, this is all I'd do for my peak week anyway. Is I'd still have my clean refeed, and then I'd have some carbs the following day as well, just to keep myself topped up for show day. So this is I'm in a very good space in some, condition wise, because it's going to allow me to play around and show you a couple of things. All right. So where do we get to the food? Now, the overall, why is this, you've probably noticed, this is significantly higher than my previous couple of weeks. Actually, tonight, in fact, very shortly, I'm catching up with a friend and we are going to have a very lovely dinner that involves a very lovely bottle of wine that's probably about 20 years old. So, yes, I will drink it. And then we'll have a very lovely dessert. So most of you are probably going, how on earth can I possibly contemplate not only blowing my diet for a meal, but having a drink 3 weeks out? It's because I know exactly what to do to pull it back. And I've already shown you this when I had that sort of off day the other week. Of course, tomorrow, to make sure I pull it back as quickly as possible, I will do the anabolic fast. So again, this is how I've had this dinner planned for weeks. I'm not going to put my life on hold for comp prep. And I don't believe anyone should put their life on hold for comp prep. You plan for it, just like you plan your meals every week, all the way through the comp prep. You plan your off meals too. I've had this plan for a while. I'm not going to not do it just because I'm on comp prep. Okay, so I've already I know what we're going to eat. Like I say, it's been planned. We've discussed it. I know exactly what I'm going to eat. And yes, it will bump my weekly calories up quite a bit over what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. But as you know, I have a strategy to pull it back. Now, with the food, I've not been so consistent this week. You can see it's a little bit all over the place. That's today. Today's going to be a huge one. So I've kind of under eaten a little bit just to make sure that it doesn't blow out excessively. And then tomorrow I will do the anabolic fast. Okay, so you'll see that on next week's numbers. And then here's my macros. So first couple of days extremely high, kept the fats and carbs low. There's my refeed, again, clean refeed, so it's higher in protein than it perhaps would be usually. Friday was a little bit lower in food generally, and then I did have a bit of a carby day yesterday and today. Today will be a bit of a carby day as well. And there actually isn't a box for alcohol, which there probably should be. What is that looking like from a chart perspective? Well, I tell you, this is blowing me away. This is the weirdest prep chart I have ever seen. I'm sorry, but it's just odd. Like you say, there's those 2 weeks putting on weight, and then all of a sudden, boom, flushed me out. Lovely. And a nice kilo weight loss there. And what's that done to me overall? Well, my average is 55.3, which is absolutely bang on. So despite those last couple of weeks where I was looking like I was behind, I've now pulled it back to be absolutely bang on. And if you look at my lowest weight for the week, I'm still actually a week ahead. Somehow, with all of this weirdness going on, it looks like I'm still a week ahead of schedule overall if you take my lowest point. So, like I say, this is why I feel, although I'm sort of physiologically not where I want to be, and kind of mentally and a little bit emotionally also not where I want to be, just going on the numbers, I'm absolutely in a very comfortable position. All right, so how am I looking? Well, I think I've hardened up a bit through my legs. You can definitely, oh, that should say week 16. You can definitely see from last week, this was when I sort of, in theory, put on the weight. You can definitely see that I've hardened up through the middle, leaned up through the middle. Look at this. Completely leaned up through the middle. And that is just the water weight coming off. You can see my back's leaned up nicely there. Hamstrings are not really showing in my back posture. But my hamstrings are out nicely in my rear dip. Nice glute ham tie in there. Again, terrible photo, but lovely back definition. Good hamstring and calf definition, so I'm very happy with that. Good striations through my delts. Nice hammy and calf definition again. And my legs are starting to look good. Okay, so that's how I'm looking. It's all gone a bit weird. Biceps are looking good today as well. Yeah, so you can see that I've just sort of hardened up through my middle, which is good to know. And that'll be the water weight. So I think that's really all I have to go through this week. I'm going to make sure I keep my diet very tight next week, but like I say, I'm going to do the carb front load, and I'll do a clean load, probably with sort of sweet potato or rice cakes and honey, and I'll start that on Tuesday. And what I'll do is I'll take photographs of how I pull up every morning and how my weight's tracking, just so we can see how the front load works. So I think that's going to be really quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it pans out as well. So until then, take care, have a good week, and I'll talk to you next week.